Start your journey of building a website at squarespace.com. This is the Sony XZ Premium, and if I'm being honest, I'm kind of struggling with it. I'm in two minds about it. On the one hand, it's got some seriously impressive specs. It's the only phone to offer a 4K HDR screen, it's got the latest Snapdragon 835 processor, and one of the best cameras on the market. And its 960 FPS slow motion video is seriously cool too. And that's just the headline stuff. It's got dual front-facing speakers, IP68 waterproofing, Bluetooth 5, 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, expandable through microSD card, and it runs the latest Android 7.1.1 software. So there's an awful lot to like here, and it is easy to get excited about the specs. But on the other hand, while the XZ Premium is one of the most striking looking phones you could buy, it's also one of the most uncomfortable phones I've used in a long time. Its sharp corners dig into your hands, it's really slippery, and the thick bezels, along with the squared off design, make it feel much bigger than other 5.5-inch phones. Front and back is covered with Gorilla Glass 5, which is a fingerprint and a micro scratch magnet. So be prepared to put a case on this, which makes it even bigger, or carry a microfiber cloth with you at all times. So while design and style is of course very subjective, and it does have a certain classy charm to it, for me, the XZ Premium feels too bulky and old-fashioned. It just doesn't look or feel like a 2017 phone. But all the smudges and all the sharp corners were forgotten about when I opened the YouTube app and saw the 2160p resolution option. That's 4K. We're talking about 807 pixels per inch. But as cool as that is, do you really need a 4K screen on a 5.5-inch phone? Honestly, I can see a small difference watching 4K videos. It does look a little bit sharper. But really, that's only because I was holding the phone right up to my face and looking for that difference. To be honest though, I really don't think anyone needs 4K on a phone this size, unless of course it's eventually utilised for VR or something. But your biggest concern's going to be how it affects battery life. But the good news, sort of, is that most of the time when using the phone, it's just running upscaled 1080p. It's only when you're watching dedicated 4K content from, say, YouTube or Netflix that it uses the higher resolution. So while upscaled 1080p obviously isn't as good as true 4K, at the same time it doesn't drain your battery as much. For example, a 1-hour 4K YouTube video used 24% of the phone's battery, whereas a 1-hour regular Full HD video used 18%. So as you'd expect, when pushing full 4K, it does use a little bit more battery, and it also makes the phone quite warm as well. So overall, I'd say it's more of a nice to have feature that you can use when you want, but most of the time you're looking at it just upscaled 1080p. But beyond the resolution, the screen does look good, although it is an IPS LCD rather than an AMOLED panel like you get on phones like the Galaxy S8. So it doesn't have quite the same rich whites or inky blacks, but it still looks very good, and it gets impressively bright, pushing a whopping 550 nits at maximum brightness. Now inside, the XZ Premium's Snapdragon 835 and 4 gigs of RAM is pretty much par for the course for 2017 flagships. And of course, as you'd expect, it will run every app and game flawlessly from the Google Play Store. Software-wise, it's running Android 7.1.1 along with Sony's own UI, which I actually really quite like. It feels fast and does come pre-installed with a couple of apps, including PS4 Remote Play. Now the camera is another standout feature of the XZ Premium. The 19 megapixel f2.0 rear camera and 13 megapixel front are very impressive. Compared to its predecessor, the Xperia XZ, the Premium has dropped 4 megapixels, but the pixels here are nearly 20% bigger. And it's also got a new sensor that uses Sony's Motion Eye capture system that helps image processing speeds and has other benefits like predictive capture, which detects motion and takes photos immediately before and after you press the shutter button, so you can then choose to save the best shot. Pretty fancy. And I actually do really like having a dedicated shutter button, which the XZ has right here. It's quite small, hasn't got the most travel, so a half press to focus is a little bit more finicky than you'd like, but I do like having it. I wish other brands would put it on their phones as well. But what really makes this stand out is the 960 FPS slow motion capabilities, albeit at 720p, but it still far exceeds most other phones, which usually top out at 240 FPS. It is seriously cool when you nail the timing and have very good light, but it does take a little while to get used to and the quality isn't the best. The video can get very noisy unless you have loads of light. But again, a bit like the 4K screen, I'm finding myself not really using it that much. I did try it a couple times when I first got the phone, but since then I haven't really touched it. So it's cool to have, I guess, but I don't know, I'm not really using it that often. And finally, battery life. The XZ Premium comes with a 3230 mAh non-removable battery, which is a bit bigger than the Galaxy S8, but a bit smaller than the LG G6 is. I am pretty impressed with the battery life overall though. I could get a solid day and a half out of it with normal use. It's basically on par with other flagship phones, but obviously playing games or watching 4K content will drain the battery much faster. But it does also come with a range of power saving modes and support for Quick Charge 3 through the USB-C port. So on the whole, the XZ Premium's battery life is pretty good. So the big question, should you buy the Sony Xperia XZ Premium? Well, as I said at the beginning, I'm kind of torn. On paper, there's a lot going for it, but I just don't find it particularly enjoyable to use, mainly because of the uncomfortable and maybe slightly boring design. And while the 4K and super slow motion are definitely cool, I rarely find myself using either in everyday life, but they are nice to have. It's also very expensive at around £625 or $800, so it's more expensive than the Galaxy S8 and LG G6 and about the same price as the HTC U11. So it's definitely got some strong competition, and personally, I'd rather have the Galaxy S8, which is cheaper, has a more modern design and a better camera, or a OnePlus 5, which is about £200 cheaper and feels faster with its near-stock Android software. But if you do want an all singing and dancing, bells and whistles kind of phone with 4K HDR screens and super slow-mo and pretty much every spec you could possibly want in a phone, and you have the money for it, you know what, go for it. It is still a great phone, but probably not one I would personally buy. So that's what I think, but what about you? Are you a fan? Are you considering buying one of these? Let me know in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chap. Thanks for watching, guys. Now, just quickly while I still have you, if you're thinking about building a new website, whether it's for an online store or a blog or anything you like, head on over to squarespace.com. They've got loads of beautifully designed templates which you can use to build your website, which makes it really quick and easy and also really professional looking. If you click on the link below and go to squarespace.com/techchap, you can also get 10% off, which is not too shabby. So a big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video.